Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Integrative Health Podcast with Dr. Jen. Today, we're going to talk all about teeth, which is really important and really exciting. So we're going to be talking to Katherine Dahl. As a new mom, Katherine was prescribed an antibiotic for the treatment of mastitis. She ended up developing the life-threatening infection C. diff from the antibiotic, which nearly landed her in the hospital with a newborn. This began Katherine's journey of healing through educating herself on the world of bacteria that live inside us and the vital role they play in human health. Probiotics were key in healing her gut and colon, as was changing her diet and addressing her stress and mental health. A few years later, Katherine struggled with cavities and gum disease. Together with her father-in-law, Dr. Dahl, a dentist of 40 plus years, they discovered that she still struggled from microbiome dysbiosis. Only this time, the symptoms were presenting themselves in her mouth. They set off to create a probiotic oral care regimen that addressed oral microbiome health and nurtures the good bacteria in the mouth that are vital for oral health and total body wellness. Katherine's now healed, and her passion about sharing her education and experience with others. Welcome, Katherine. So excited to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So your background with having mastitis, which this is not uncommon to get a clogged duct leading to mastitis. It's one of the indications for antibiotics that you absolutely need to follow through with. Now, when you were given the antibiotics, did anyone talk about taking probiotics during that, or even the negative effects of the antibiotic?
No, not at all. Not until after the fact, unfortunately. Thankfully, my father-in-law is so well versed. He is a dentist, but he's very holistic minded. And so when I got C. diff, he was like, you need to get on a probiotic now. And so that really began my healing journey and just my interest in holistic health and gut health. I kind of dove in and started researching the gut microbiome and the importance of beneficial bacteria. And together we learned a lot. But thankfully, after the fact, my father-in-law did help me with that.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And did you guys draw the connection of C. diff back then to your cavities and gum problems later on?
Yeah, we did. So kind of the way that it worked was, if we back up a little bit, I had experienced that crazy gut dysbiosis, but I was able to heal with probiotics, with changing some things around in my life. And then fast forward about 6 years after that, I had 3 kids. My gut was healed, but I went to visit my father-in-law in his office, and he was like, hey, you've got a lot of spots, and you've got puffy, inflamed gums, gingivitis. We need to take a look at what's going on. And so we realized that I had oral dysbiosis, not necessarily potentially latently connected to the gut dysbiosis, but we think it was due to lots of other things. When you have small kids, you're eating a lot of snacks, you're eating a lot of packaged goods. And so we realized I needed to dramatically change our diet. We needed to eat more protein. We needed to eat more nutrient dense meals. And then also we took a look at my oral care and realized that my alcohol based mouthwash was essentially like an antibiotic in my mouth. So I was doing the same thing in my mouth that I had done in my gut. And of course, my toothpaste had sodium lauryl sulfate and fluoride, which were oral microbiome disruptors. So my oral microbiome was out of whack, as was my gut previously. So that was kind of how we figured out, I need to get this under control like I had previously.
Yes. And I think you brought up an important point to talk about with the mouthwash. So when we're using mouthwash, we're decreasing nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator for our heart. It also reduces the production of this in our mouth, which is so important. So yeah, who would think mouthwash would be so bad? But this is what happens. These things that are common and that we find on the shelf and they market to us, they're not good for us, right? And it's kind of sad that it took like you going through this horrible infection C. diff, which actually kills a lot of people. It's very, very detrimental. And sometimes, people have to get stool transplants to fix it. A little bit of
I
C. diff is okay, but when it overgrows, or this dysbiosis, which is the word you mentioned a few times, which is an overgrowth of bad bacteria. If we have good bacteria enough, it keeps those bad guys in check, kind of like in society where, we don't have a lot of bad people. The good people overcrowd the bad people. So that's why we can get along okay, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it. And unfortunately, I was in that percentage where it was pretty debilitating. I couldn't even keep water in my system. I lost a lot of weight, nearly hospitalized. And that's really tough when you're nursing a 2 month old and you're a brand new mom. It was life altering, to say the least. So I'm really thankful I was able to recover from that.
No, that's really scary. Can I ask, this might be too personal. Were you able to keep up your milk supply and everything?
Yeah, no, that unfortunately was affected as well.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was. So yeah, nope. My first kiddo, love her so very much, but she did not get the most holistic early childhood. um,
That's how it is for most mothers. It's after like when they're like one or two, we're like, what? And it opens your eyes.
it really does. It really does. So no, that was a good question, but no, and unfortunately, really did affect me.
What can I ask what antibiotic you were put on for the mastitis?
Yeah, you know what? I should have pulled that up. I don't remember. However, I do know it's an off one because I am allergic to penicillin.
Yes. Okay. I wonder if
So,
it was clindamycin.
clindamycin. I knew when
Yes.
you said it, I would recognize it, and that's what it was.
Yeah. So a little tip for those listening out there. Clindamycin very commonly prescribed to those with penicillin allergies, especially for dental stuff. And then mastitis is just a different, usually we prescribe a different kind of penicillin for it. And yeah, Clinda, because you were allergic to penicillins. And with Clinda, it has the highest, it's the one that can cause C. diff the most. So
Mhm.
it's basically when you hear Clinda and someone's having this bright yellow diarrhea, you just know. Now, how can you prevent this? Probiotics, taking care of your dental health, which we're going to talk a lot about today. So priming that GI tract and your mouth can help prevent, this these bad outcomes, which, for you it was turned into a passion. So I don't necessarily think it was bad for you. I think you turned it into good.
Absolutely. That's what I like to say. As much as it was traumatic during the experience, I am thankful that I went through it and I'm on the other side because I can share this information, just like you, with so many people that can benefit from it.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about Super Teeth. So you started this company with young little ones because you were so passionate. Because otherwise, I'm telling you, as a business owner, people don't go into a business like for fun or a hobby. It's because it's a passion, because it's a lot of work.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So Super Teeth was really born out of my realization that there was a lack of good education around true oral health. I mean, thankfully, there was so much information about gut health that I was able to get ahead of that pretty quickly when I did. For oral health, that's just not there. We launched the company in 2021, but in late 2018 is when we actually began to found the company and started formulations. And at the time, love my father-in-law. He's different. This is not all dentists, but usually the dentist is the source of your oral health education. And sometimes it doesn't go much farther than eat less sugar or, floss more, do a better job taking care of your teeth. Not very insightful. And again, that's not all dentists. So, but it's just generally common. So I just saw the opportunity to start that conversation in the holistic community. We tend to be self-educators. We want to know the root cause of why we're experiencing what we are, and education around the oral microbiome, the role that bacteria, pH, saliva play in cavity and gum disease susceptibility is so important. So that is where I, just found that passion to start the company with my father-in-law and my husband a while ago. So
That's awesome. So, you're not a dentist and you don't have a dental background, but your experience and having kids and having the health problem that you went through, that's just what caused you to go out there and create this. So tell us a little bit about like some of the products.
sure, absolutely. Yes. So my father-in-law is a dentist of over 40 years. My brother-in-law is a dentist, and then both of my sister-in-laws are hygienists. And my husband and I have been together for 20 years. So more than half my life, I've been immersed in the dental world. And it's honestly embarrassing to have to go to your father-in-law to get your cavities filled.
Yes.
So yeah, that's really where the passion began. So we put our heads together and we created the first probiotic oral care regimen. What do I mean by that? We've got toothpaste, dental probiotics, and floss that are all created to foster that healthy environment for beneficial bacteria, which plays such a vital role in overall oral health. So yeah, I've got in front of us, but this is our dental probiotic, and so a gut probiotic, a digestive probiotic. Just want to make this clear: you swallow that, and obviously it needs to make its way all the way past the stomach acid to go where it needs to go. With a dental probiotic, it's dissolvable. It's a dissolvable tablet. And it dissolves in your mouth, and that's where the bacteria seed the oral cavity. So that's how a dental probiotic works. And then our prebiotic toothpaste is hydroxyapatite based. So it's not a microbiome disruptor. And the prebiotics help foster the beneficial bacteria in the probiotics and just in general in your mouth to have a healthy environment. And then our floss delivers those good guys in between the teeth. And so we're really proud of this, whole regimen that we created around the oral microbiome.
Right. And no mouthwash, right? Because you shouldn't need mouthwash.
You should not need mouthwash. Absolutely. You just don't. I mean, and when I was using mouthwash previously, I always felt like something was wrong in my mouth and I needed to just rinse it out and wash it and something was wrong. When you have a balanced oral microbiome, you don't have that feeling. And I can speak to that from experience. Your pH is neutral, and you don't have that thick film, and you don't feel like you need to use mouthwash, to be honest. So no, I don't find it necessary.
Right, right. And I think it's so cool because we have our microbiome, we have this bacteria not only in our gut but mouth to anus. So when we talk about health in the GI tract, we have to talk mouth to anus. We a lot of people skip the mouth and you can't. It's part of it. It's important.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of this people with inflammation, gingivitis, that's a key. There's chronic inflammation going on. So if we're ignoring our mouth or just not taking care of it, only doing dental cleanings, it's not enough for sure.
Yeah, and I'm actually glad you brought that up because our tagline is "Go beyond the clean." Because we typically think with oral care, oral health, that just means clean your teeth, just brush, clean your teeth, and you're good. But it is so much more than that. We need to put the mouth back into the body. We need to treat it like we do the rest of our body. It is so incredibly important. Like you said, it's part of the GI tract, which I didn't even realize until my good friend Cass Nelson Dooley. She is an ethnopharmacologist, and she's also a microbiome specialist. She wrote the book Heal Your Oral Microbiome. I don't know if you've checked this book out before,
No,
but
I want to.
highly recommend it. It's a good read. All the information that I had gathered from sources online, she had it right here. And I think this book was published in 2019. So it was great timing. And so we became great friends. And I learned from her that the mouth is scientifically a part of the GI tract. So like you said, she says it's the first stop on the bus line. And
Yeah.
so We swallow 1 to 2 liters of saliva a day. And if you've got dysbiosis in the mouth, you are sending that bacteria downstream. And not only is it connected to the gut and to the GI tract, it's also connected systemically to the body. So you have the oral mucosal lining, which kind of separates what you see from what you don't see. And I'm sure you're familiar with the phenomenon of leaky gut. Not really phenomenon, it's true.
Yeah.
um, so there's actually leaky mouth, same exact thing. That epithelial lining can become compromised. And with dysbiosis, that pathogenic bacteria are making their way through to the circulatory system, nervous system, cardiovascular system. And that's why there are so many studies linking poor oral health to Alzheimer's, heart disease, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, and then, of course, to your autoimmune diseases of the GI tract, like IBD, ulcerative colitis, and Crohn's. So it is truly more than just cleaning your teeth. It is a part of your body, and we're passionate about that conversation.
Yeah. And the problem is, I feel like modern conventional medicine, they kind of get it. This is why cardiovascular surgeons, before someone goes in for an open heart surgery, you have to get dental clearance, right? Because we know that the bacteria in our mouth can go systemic. It is part of that. They don't want that bacteria, that anaerobic bacteria, attaching to a heart valve, because then it's really hard to treat and stuff. But I feel like there's not enough prevention. It's like, why are we waiting till there's disease to treat it? Why aren't we talking about oral health? And the other thing, we don't want to get to the point where it's a root canal. I
Right.
have patients that I'm like, I think your chronic inflammation is coming from your mouth. I think it's coming from those root canals. And it's like, it's so sad, because then it's thousands and thousands of dollars. Where if we invested, you know, a little bit every month, now we wouldn't be down that rabbit hole of, problems. And I'm sure your father-in-law sees it a lot.
Oh yeah, he absolutely does. I mean, root canals are just like you said, they're stressful on the body. They truly put stress on the body, and it is a big ordeal. I mean, it's expensive, it's not fun, and it's something you have to deal with for the rest of your life until you decide to get it removed. So, absolutely, I feel like those preventative measures. Again, if I had known when I got mastitis, I could have done so. I guess maybe not, but there are holistic treatments. I could have tried other ways, or when I do have to go on an antibiotic, I do need to take a probiotic simultaneously. These preventative measures, just like you said, they're there for oral health, and I think the education was lacking. It's definitely getting better in the last few years.
Yeah. And why is it so overlooked? Why do you think that some doctors are talking about it? Some dentists don't even talk about oral hygiene. I feel like you're just in there for your cleaning and you're out. They're not talking about pre and probiotics. And like you said, how like eating constantly is not good for your teeth.
Right.
Just all of that.
Right. It could be a mixture of dentists, and most of them being traditionally trained, and that just wasn't a part of the conversation. I do think a younger generation, especially biodentists, they do it right.
Yeah.
When they're looking at your whole entire body, ears, ear, nose, throat, how you're sleeping, is your mouth open, the myofascial therapy, all of that. So I think it's getting better, but I do think it was traditional training. And then also the fact that dentists and doctors are just treated they're so separate, and they really aren't. It's just another part of your body. So hopefully the education will start to trickle down into colleges. So my father-in-law does actually teach at the University of Washington. And so we're hoping to see, those conversations start to happen at the collegiate level.
Oh, that's exciting. That would be awesome. I think definitely if the younger generation was teaching more about the oral microbiome, I mean, we would change healthcare too, because it affects your health. So that would be super exciting.
Totally, totally.
So what are some success stories that you've heard from people using your products?
Oh, that's such a great question. So I think people always say, like, what am I going to notice first? And of course, if you have shallow cavities, they are able to remineralize, but that's not something you're going to know until you go see your dentist. So you yourself, right away, the number one symptom we see decrease is bleeding gums, which
Mm,
is the visual sign of inflammation.
mm,
So a reduction in bleeding gums is definitely by far and the most noticeable symptom that is decreased by our probiotic oral care regimen. Also, just that general mouth feel that I was speaking about earlier, you can kind of tell when your microbiome is off and your pH is low, or acidic. And then when it's at a neutral state, you can tell that too. Then, of course, once they do go and see their dentist, and they'll often people will say, our customers will say, I brought your probiotic in to show them, and they were like, "What is that? That is so neat." Our customers are kind of like our word of mouth to dentists, and then dentists will reach out to us and say, "Hey, can we carry your product? Because I saw XYZ, in my patients." So that is absolutely the most fulfilling part of our job. And then also, they taste good. So dental probiotics previously, when we started the company, they were kind of chalky and unpleasant. Like I said, they dissolve in the mouth, so that mouth taste and feel is important, and they weren't pleasant. And so we have xylitol in them, which makes them yummy, if you will. And so people enjoy, and I should say kids, so parents specifically have enjoyed their children being excited to brush because they get a teeth treat or what have you. There's lots of different names that our customers come up with, but kids get excited to brush.
oh, that's great. These would also, I feel like, be good for kids, like to take after lunch at school or something, right?
Exactly.
Would that be good? Because the xylitol will help because they can't brush after they eat lunch.
Yep, yep. The xylitol and the beneficial bacteria that are in our probiotics, they actually have the ability to neutralize the saliva. So as long as kiddos' school isn't off, seeing like a pill or a tablet, if you will, in their lunch, if you're allowed to pack one, I absolutely think it's recommended. It's like a breath mint that's good for your mouth.
Mm, yeah. Could you touch a little bit about the pH you were talking about?
Yes. Oh, say that one more time. Sorry, was your
The
question?
the the pH, you were talking about how it like neutralizes pH and like
Specifically how
what
our
yeah, like what would people want for a pH of their mouth? Like what would be good and bad?
Yeah. So, I mean, between, like 6.5 and 7.5 is just about where the 7 is where the pH needs to lie. Our bacteria we have a combination of Lactobacillus reuteri, Lactobacillus paracasei, and then Streptococcus salivarius M18. And so those bacteria are specifically, they'll bring your pH to about that level.
Hmm. So, because a lot of the times we see hyperacidic or lower pH in the mouth, and that's what's causing issues, right?
Yeah. So basically, pathogenic bacteria, they eat sugar, they eat simple carbs, they eat what you eat. And as a byproduct, they create acid. Acid is what erodes enamel, and it fosters a better environment for bad bacteria, not a better, but for them. And so you will have an acidic mouth with the more bacteria that you have in it. And it's actually interesting that you asked that, because when I went in during my health journey, and my father-in-law said, "You have tons of cavities, you have gingivitis." And so they have oral microbiome testing companies that can tell you what bacteria you have in your mouth and all that fancy jazz. But he just gave me a pH strip. And I just, so you want to wait about a half hour or so after eating or drinking anything but water. You put a pH strip in your mouth, and that pretty quickly tells you whether or not you've got oral dysbiosis. So
Wow.
that's another clear sign.
Cool. Well, that's an easy way. You could just buy pH strips from wherever, Amazon, and
Yep,
test the whole crew. I could test my whole crew and
yep,
see.
yep, yeah, exactly. Because your saliva, it's a natural remineralizer,
Mm,
and it naturally helps buffer that pH. That's why God created our saliva for. So it it should be doing its job if you have a healthy oral microbiome.
Yeah. I'm still grossed out. Well, not, it shouldn't be gross, but that we swallow 1 to 2 liters of saliva, you said, a
Yes,
day?
with
Oh,
billions of bacteria
right.
floating around inside.
Right. So if you have some bad guys in there, they're just getting into your stomach. And then, I could see how this goes full circle because so many people, they actually have low pH in their stomach. So
Right.
then if they're having really, or sorry, they don't have a low pH in their stomach. So our stomach is supposed to be very acidic and they actually have low stomach acid or higher pH. So then you're swallowing these bugs and they're actually getting through to the small and large intestine. So, because I see that a lot with patients that get recurrent parasites or H. pylori or, like food poisoning a lot. Because if you don't have that right acidity in your stomach, so
Right.
that's another possible way. So let's go back to the bugs again. And like, so I love Weston A. Price, and I'm sure you know about him. And just how when we eat the right food, then we have a balanced oral microbiome and we actually have good jaw structure and all that. But would you say that just the simple carbs and sugars and pop, and that's destroying, like, if kids are eating a lot of sugar, simple carbs, how is that affecting their oral microbiome? Because this is becoming more and more common, and so are cavities with children.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely the quality of the food that they're eating. I mean, before the convenience of processed foods, we ate real food. And real food, again, the way God created it, is supposed to be nourishing and healthy for the body. And our mouths, our saliva, have the ability to buffer and to clean, and to, of course, oral care is important as well, like brushing and manually breaking up that biofilm. But the food source is nutrients for our teeth and for our mouth, and it keeps that pH right where it needs to be. With the convenience of processed foods and packaged foods, we've got foods that easily break down in the mouth and turn into sugar, and those bacteria love that food and they will feed on it and they'll produce acid as a byproduct. And it's definitely contributed that, and then also our snacking behaviors, because it takes the mouth about 20 to 30 minutes for saliva to wash away food particles and to neutralize that pH. You go from a state of demineralization while eating to remineralization 20 minutes after. And so kids and adults and the like, we take a bite, okay, or iced coffee with sugar in it, whatnot. We take a sip, do things, take a sip, take a bite. You never enter back into remineralization. You're in a constant state of demon. And so I think the quality of the food and the snacking of the food have contributed to the increase in dental caries, gum disease, and that sort.
That makes a lot of sense. And I guess it makes me think twice before snacking, because from a gut health standpoint, it's also not good. So it's a double whammy almost. It's teeth
Yep.
and gut. So it's almost like, I mean, people could try OMAD 1 meal a day, and use some pre and probiotics in their mouth and their gut, and that would really give good mineralization. But yeah, I think though, if we would talk to the normal person about this, they would think we're a little bit nutso. But this is why I like having these conversations. We need to normalize good gut health, good oral health, and also just talk about the changes of society. Like you were saying, like, we snack all the time, or we're having sweet iced coffee that we're going to crave more. The lines at Starbucks are always full. It's crazy.
Yeah, I had a lot of Starbucks back in my day. I have to say, I lived off
Uh-oh.
Starbucks when I had little kids. So there were so many contributing factors to my being compromised for, dysbiosis, to say the least.
Hindsight's 2020, you know?
I know, exactly. So yes, absolutely. That plays a huge role. And I agree, normalizing it to, and for the longest time too, we have mixed information as well, right? They say like, if
Yeah.
you want to keep your weight down, you need to eat smaller meals, but more frequently to
Oh,
increase your metabolism. I don't even know. It's not
right,
true, you know?
right. Probably trying to sell more low fat, nutrient void products, but
Yeah, that are quick and easy to get into because
yeah,
nobody has the time to make 7 healthy meals a day.
we've all been played. That's okay. All right, let's get into some controversial topics a little bit. Can you speak more on hydroxyapatite? So that versus nano hydroxyapatite, and what do you guys suggest?
Sure. Yeah, it is definitely a controversy that I just think needs some clarification.
Okay.
So, in case listeners don't know, hydroxyapatite is what makes up 97% of your enamel and 70% of your dentin. And it is a naturally occurring calcium phosphate mineral. So, it is a totally natural way to remineralize your teeth. And studies have shown that it's just effective as fluoride at a 10% concentration. Now we're talking about regular micro. Then there's nano. Nano is the processed version of hydroxyapatite. It is processed to become very, very tiny, nano size, to effectively fill in dentinal tubules to decrease hypersensitivity, to effectively remineralize, to whiten and strengthen from the inside out. So one is more processed, one is less processed. However, science studies that have been performed have shown that a certain nano supplier is approved as safe. And so I think it all depends on what your goal is. I mean, if you eat well, if you have a good diet, if you're not, chasing cavities, if you don't have symptoms that you need to address, a 10% micro hydroxyapatite is totally good. If you have cavities, if you have hypersensitivity, if you're looking to whiten the teeth and strengthen from the inside out, nano might be for you. But we're all about mouth health. And so maybe nano wouldn't necessarily be necessary for a long term. It's up to the user. And if they're concerned, the studies are there and they can read them, and they've also been summarized, online as well. So that information is now there, as it was not back in 2018, 2019.
Right, right. And so there's concern about, I think, the nano crossing blood-brain barrier. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
that up on that research.
Yeah, so I actually, I have this, I wrote it down in my notes because I didn't want to misspeak. So Fluidanova is the only approved supplier of nano that has been third-party tested to not be able to cross the blood-brain barrier, to not be able to penetrate cells. They said, I contacted them, and they summarizing these studies. It says NanoZim is a safe product if ingested because studies have shown that this nanohydroxyapatite dissolves in the stomach due to low pH. In September 2018, it was published in Cosmetic Journal Safety Assessment of Nanohydroxyapatite, where it demonstrated that NanoZim, if swallowed, instantly dissolves, eliminating any possibility of uptake of the nanohydroxyapatite into other organs of the body. Moreover, it was demonstrated that in contact with the mouth and the oral mucosal gingival tissue, NHA does not cross it and does not damage these tissues. So, it said even if a small amount crosses into the bloodstream, it does not pose a genotoxicity hazard, as demonstrated in these tests. So this is from the supplier. Again, I think that each can use their own discretion. And again, like the studies are there. So if you want to go through and see exactly how they performed the studies and read through all that, because the holistic community does like to do that. So it's there. But it is the only approved supplier of nano is Fluid Innova.
Okay.
When we were formulating our toothpaste, that those safety measures had not been taken actually, and these tests had not been performed to my comfort level. So we use micro. That's not to say that there won't be a nano product in our product catalog in the future. But again, I think there's a time and a place. And if you are continually chasing cavities and you have a need for nano all the time, what else can you be doing, you know, to improve your body's own ability to remineralize?
Right. That's a great point. And my other thought, if it's absorbed because of the low pH, in the stomach, what if someone doesn't have a low pH or they're struggling with that? So I like that
Yeah.
you erred on the side of caution for an everyday product.
Exactly. That's exactly it. I mean, I know that individuals will take Tylenol or will do other things as necessary. Do they take it every day or should they? No. So I think
Right.
it's one of those where you need to use your discretion. And we have a 10% concentration micro, which is what is shown in studies to remineralize. With nano, it's a 1 to 3% to match the same efficacy.
Got it. Got it. And you mentioned how hydroxyapatite it's comparable to fluoride, but without all the negative side effects, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is a naturally occurring calcium phosphate mineral. And like I said, 97% of your enamel is made up of hydroxyapatite. So hydroxyapatite toothpastes have the ability to fill in the damaged areas of the teeth, repair small fissures, and protect teeth from decay.
That's amazing. So I don't know where all my 80s children born in the 80s people are out there, because I have some staining on my incisors from having being bathed in fluoride in my teeth. And it's interesting because I look back and I'm like, that probably had something to do with why I had thyroid problems and nodules and Hashimoto's, because you're competing for
Yes.
that iodine spot. It just makes me so mad.
Oh,
But
they were all into it, right? Like put
they
it in the
still are.
water. They still are. Yeah.
People still buy Crest. They hand it out at my kids' school and they know, they're like, yeah, no. And they like give it away to someone. And I'm like, why? Like, you're telling us that our teeth are made up of hydroxyapatite. Like, why are we using fluoride still in
Uh,
this day and
It
age?
is so old fashioned.
Weird.
That's funny that you say that. My kids have grown up on this pretty much because they were so little when we started, and they went to sleep over at a friend's house that is not as holistic minded, and they said that they brushed their teeth and they were like, ah, they thought they were foaming at the mouth with sodium lauryl sulfate, and they were like,
Um,
and mom, it was like the brightest blue I've ever seen, and
uh, you
you
need
know.
to shock them with some samples.
Yes, I think so.
Oh.
I think so.
You just don't know. Like, you just don't
Right.
know until you listen, you get the knowledge, because we're brainwashed that like Crest and Colgate and, oh, they need to have sparkles in their toothpaste. Like, I remember, when I was growing up, I loved that sparkle toothpaste. I was like,
I
this
did
is
too.
so cool. I mean, it's just, and now, I mean, yeah, my kids, their teeth, they're the same as anyone else out there, if not stronger. And they haven't had fluoride at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
I like,
Yeah.
and you guys, it's really easy out there as parents. You go to a dentist, you say, we're refusing fluoride and fluoride treatments. If they give you a hard time, you go do a different dentist. Okay.
Yeah.
Ours market, it's in our charts. They don't even, they don't even ask. I still remind them during the polishing, like, we're
Mhm.
no fluoride, but they're like, yeah, we have it written down. You're a no fluoride family. And it's
I
like,
know, like as if it's I don't know, a stigma or something.
well, no, I want that stigma. I care about my kids' brains,
I
like, and their
know.
thyroid. Like, we
It
know it's bad. It's just
exactly.
really hard to remove from water, right? So they're gonna say it's good, because if it wasn't, they would have to remove it from the water everywhere.
I
So
know, I know. And they do make filters, as you know, I'm sure,
yeah,
water filters that can pull all that stuff out. So obviously, water is actually really important in our household. We have
yeah.
shower heads and the water that we drink. I mean, that is one of the things we probably spend the most money on in self-care for our family is water.
Mhm.
Because so many nasty things can be hiding in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the conversation we've had today because the dental habits, if you're bathing yourself in, like you said, SLS and dyes, if you're having your kids brush your teeth, which is a positive habit, but you're giving them nasty stuff,
Yeah.
that is not good. You want to build up their teeth. You don't want to break them down or have additives that are just going to cause the microbiome disruption, like mouthwash. So it just starts with education, first educating yourself, which is why you're here today, and then also educating family members. So sharing the podcast or just gifting them toothpaste. Like my new thing is I just gift families or friends with healthy products. We all
Yeah.
don't want like more like weird things. We want like, we're practical now. Mothers are practical. Get them, toothpaste or, I don't know.
So true. It's so true. And actually, we our dental probiotics. Our flagship was our mint, just because we're so used to that refreshing mint flavor in our mouth. But we had so many moms and families, and so many kids with minted spicy, or it had interactions with other supplements they were taking. So we came out with strawberry, and let me tell you, it's like you're buying candy for your kiddo, because it is so, that xylitol and that yummy taste is so pleasant for kids, and it's actually healthy for their mouth. So we get really excited about that.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I'll have to try the strawberry because we the mint. One of my kids like the mint, so I'll have to do the strawberry and be like, take this to school in your lunch. Have your teeth be healthy. Because my son came back from his first day of school today. I'm like, your breath smells. So I'm gonna
Uh,
have to get some of the strawberry for
yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It helps with halitosis too, for sure. I'm sure he didn't have
It
halitosis,
doesn't. Yeah, his
but
breath doesn't normally smell. I was like, what is going on?
ate
So
something funky maybe too.
yeah, so dental probiotic mints, not mouthwash. Teach your kids young because
Yes,
we know when they get in that high school stage, they want their breath to smell good. So
yes, yeah. Very. It changes from a health to a vanity thing, doesn't it?
yes, yes. Well, that's why you have to tell, like, you just got to teach the kids. This is going to help your vanity, even adults.
Totally, absolutely.
So, Catherine, thank you so much for all of your knowledge and your passion, because that is really what has kicked this off to provide healthy alternatives for toothpaste and the oral microbiome. So, how can people find you and your products?
Yeah, thank you for having me. So they can go to our website at Get Super Teeth, pretty straightforward, getsuperteeth.com. That's where they can find us. And then specifically for you, we have code Dr. Jen, DRJEN, and that'll save your listeners 15% on anything on our website. So they can try it out. And we are just really excited to have more holistic minded customers our way. We take care of our customers. We're all very, very passionate about that as well. So
Yeah,
that's how they
I
can
can
find
tell. That's
us.
awesome. And I love like just to talk with other mothers that are health conscious and fighting the good fight.
Yes, likewise.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much.